Hi, I'm Jody Janes, manager here at SureTech Labs, which is located in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm excited to tell you about our production agriculture testing facility, where we test thousands of soil, tissue, feed, forage, and manure samples every year. In 2017, SureTech Labs opened this brand new, state-of-the-art laboratory testing facility. It was an upgrade from our previous lab that had opened in 1968. SureTech Labs has 29 full-time employees, including chemists, agronomists, production people, and a maintenance crew, all to keep supporting our laboratory. For 50 years, we have been serving our cooperative and our owners, such as Sunrise Cooperative, with the same mission: to provide timely, accurate results to help you make real-time decisions on the farm to drive better production of your crops.
At SureTech, we start tracking your sample the moment it arrives on our dock. But the real tracking starts back at the co-op, like at Sunrise Cooperative, as we integrate with their software to create specialized barcodes that are assigned to each and every sample. When those barcodes arrive at SureTech Labs, we scan them into our system, and immediately the sample is logged in. A unique identifier is used to track the sample all the way through the lab, from the start of the process to the reporting of the results.
Tracking is very important at SureTech Labs. We use barcodes to track every piece of information on the samples that arrive. These barcodes were created at the cooperative that contain all the sampling information and what tests we should run. From here, we also collect data on which instrument the sample will run on and what operators perform the test.
This allows us to create a lot of data that we can use to improve our processes and be more accurate and more efficient to better perform the tests on your samples. To perform the most efficient process possible, we use a lot of conveyor belts and good manufacturing processes. This is an example of how we have good product handling that reduces waste in our process and lets us process your sample in the most efficient way. After login, samples are loaded into our high-tech, high-capacity soil drying equipment. Each sample is scanned as it enters our drying equipment here at SureTech. This allows us again to have more tracking, and we can timestamp and follow our samples all the way through the process. SureTech Labs owns 2 large dryers that are capable of drying 9,000 samples in one day. That's 18,000 soil samples that SureTech can process in a single 24-hour period. After samples are dried in the dryer, they next are placed into our custom-built soil grinding equipment. This is a hammer mill that sits on top of a shaker pan that's a 1 millimeter screen size. Samples are vibrated down through the screen to give us a very consistent sample. So we completely homogenize all of the soil cores that were pulled for your sample and sent here to SureTech Labs to create a very consistent sample for the lab to perform a very precise test. At SureTech, we have a variety of products that we can grind and process. Not only do we process soil and plant tissue, we have a lot of specialized grinders that allow us to do all types of products. This would include high moisture corn or high fat ingredients for your feed. We can even grind up stalks on our cutting mill to measure stalk nitrate at the end of the growing season. After the sample is dried and ground, next it's ready for the lab test. Samples like this one are sub-sampled into our test batch here. These test trays are labeled with a barcode, so again, we can track its movement all the way through the lab, noting which operator and which instruments it was processed on. At SureTech Labs, we commit 5% of our samples to inline quality control. What that means is we purchase soil from an outside agency with known values. After this batch is run on our instruments, those values are compared to the known values of the purchased sample. And if they are in an acceptable range, we'll pass the whole test batch through. If they fail, we will retest this batch to ensure the best quality for your samples. To test mineral content of your soil, like phosphorus or potassium or other macronutrients, we use a weak acid called malic 3. This is an extracting solution that will pull off plant-available cations or minerals and puts them into solution. This allows us to filter that solution and measure it on highly technical instruments in the laboratory. The samples with the malic 3 solution shake for 5 minutes at 180 oscillations per minute. This is when the chemistry happens. The minerals are pulled off of the clay particles and put into solution. After this step, we will filter these samples, and then they're ready to get to our instruments for analysis. After extracting with the acid solution, the next step to the soil mineral process is to bring the samples to our spectrometer. Samples are robotically transported to the argon plasma torch. The samples are injected into the center of the torch, which raises the electrons and the energy level of each of those molecules. As the energy comes down, samples emit a light that we can't see, but that light intensity is captured by the instrument. In nature, every element has a wavelength associated with it. The stronger the intensity of that wavelength, the more of that element, like phosphorus or potassium or calcium, is in your sample. pH is one of the most important things you can test on your soil. That's why at SureTech, we use this highly technical, custom-built robot to make sure that we have the best accuracy of that test. The robot has glass electron probes that measure the hydrogen ion concentration. That translates to the pH of your soil. We also measure the soil buffer pH and tells you how much lime you need to add to your soil. To do this, we add Sakura buffer, which is a solution that is about 7.6 pH. We add it to the soil, which is set for 15 minutes and then shaken for 15 minutes. In that time, the reserve hydrogen in your soil will pull down that pH from 7.6 to the buffering number. Again, this will tell you how much lime you will need to add to neutralize that reserve hydrogen. The last test that we run for soil is our soil organic matter. We measure that by loss on ignition. That means that we're burning off the organic matter in every single sample. To do this, we'll subsample the original ground and dried sample into these crucibles. The crucibles are then loaded into the furnace, which is usually at 700 degrees Fahrenheit. This process will burn off any organic matter. We'll weigh these crucibles before and after burning the sample, and that will give us the percent organic matter or percent loss on ignition. At SureTech, we're constantly working to improve our processes for our owners like Sunrise Cooperative. We have an entire team that's dedicated to method development. Their job is to onboard new instruments and new methods that take tests that take hours down to seconds. After all the soil testing analysis is complete, results are reported back to our customers, like Sunrise Cooperative, in 24 to 72 hours. SureTech Labs is integrated directly with Sunrise Cooperative software, so the results go right into the software without any manual intervention. Here at SureTech, we store samples for as long as we possibly can. We have enough space for 30,000 samples. SureTech Labs is owned by Land O'Lakes, and as members of a cooperative system and Sunrise Cooperative, this is your laboratory. We work hard, as you can see, to use good manufacturing processes to produce the best quality product, and that product is data. We know that that drives insights and decisions on your farm and in your operations that have lasting impacts. Land O'Lakes built this 40,000 square foot facility, and we opened in 2017. It has room to expand and even room to add an additional 20,000 feet. This is a long-term investment by Land O'Lakes, SureTech Labs, for our owners like Sunrise Cooperative.